The council president called for order, but it took several minutes for the chamber to quiet down. When it finally did, Tholmar spoke in his slow, deep voice. "We will now hear testimony from Taeyang Kim himself." Taeyang stood up. His legs felt weak. Minho had prepared him for this moment, going over possible questions dozens of times. But now, standing before the council with the entire galaxy watching, all those prepared answers felt wrong. He walked to the center of the chamber. Velthi started to follow him, but Minho gently held her back. The child made a distressed sound but stayed in her seat. Council President Tholmar spoke first. "Taeyang Kim of Earth, you violated emergency protocols during the containment breach. You endangered yourself unnecessarily. Please explain your reasoning." Taeyang took a breath. "I saw a child in danger, I helped. That's all." "That is not sufficient explanation," Tholmar said. "You must have had reasoning. You must have calculated the risks and determined the action was worthwhile." "I didn't calculate anything. I just acted." A council member from the Cillian delegation stood. Her voice came through a translator, emotionless and precise. "But surely you considered the probability of success. The danger to yourself? The potential outcomes?" "No, there was no time for that. I saw her standing there and I knew if I didn't do something right then, she would die." "So you admit you acted without thought?" Ambassador Thex interjected. "This proves my point about human unpredictability." Taeyang turned to face him. "I acted without calculation, yes, but not without thought. I thought about what was right. I thought about who I wanted to be. I thought about whether I could live with myself if I ran away and let a child die. Those are emotional considerations, not logical ones," Thex said. "You're right. They're emotional. Because I'm not a computer. I'm a person. And people don't just calculate survival. We think about meaning. We think about purpose. We think about what kind of world we want to live in," the chamber murmured. Some council members nodded. Others looked skeptical. Another council member stood. This one was Andorian, tall and blue. "You claim you acted on instinct to protect a child. But this child was not your species. She was not even similar to your species. How do you explain this?" "She was a child. That's all that mattered." "But evolutionary biology suggests species protect their own genetic line first. Your action contradicts this." "Maybe human evolution is different," Taeyang said, his frustration growing. "Maybe we learned that protecting any child makes everyone's children safer. Maybe we developed empathy that goes beyond genetics. I don't know the science. I just know what I felt." "And what did you feel?" Tholmar asked. "Fear, terrible fear. That thing in the bay was producing chemicals that attacked my brain directly. Every part of me wanted to run." Taeyang's voice got quieter. "But when I looked at Velthi standing there alone, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt that she mattered, that her life had value, that someone needed to protect her. Even though protecting her could cost you your life?" "Yes." "That is not logical," Tholmar stated. "No, it's not logical. It's human." Ambassador Thex stood again. His crystal plates were dark with anger. "This proves exactly what I have been saying. Humans prioritize emotion over reason. They act impulsively. They cannot be trusted in positions that require rational decision-making." "Is it rational to abandon children?" Taeyang shot back. "Is it rational to calculate the value of lives like they're numbers on a chart?" "You left Velthi there to die because saving her wasn't efficient. You call that rational. I call it cowardice." The chamber exploded. Dozens of council members stood, shouting. Some defended Thex, others condemned him. The neat, orderly hearing dissolved into chaos. "Order!" Tholmar's voice boomed. "We will have order." It took 10 minutes to restore calm. When everyone was finally seated again, Tholmar looked tired. "This council is clearly divided on this matter. Some see the humans' actions as heroic. Others see them as reckless. Still others see them as dangerous unpredictability." He paused. "We must decide what this means for humanity's role in galactic affairs." Minho stood. "With respect, Council President, I would like to make a statement." Tholmar nodded. Minho walked to the center. His voice was steady and clear. "This council is asking the wrong question. You're debating whether Taeyang Kim's actions were logical or emotional, rational or impulsive. But the real question is simpler. Was what he did right?" He turned to face the entire council. "You represent 50 different species. You have different biologies, different cultures, different ways of thinking, but you all claim to be civilized. You all claim to value justice and righteousness. So I ask you, In a civilized society, is it right to abandon a helpless child? Silence filled the chamber. Taeyang Kim did not violate the principles of civilization. He upheld them. He showed that sometimes being civilized means acting against your own survival instinct. It means choosing what is right over what is safe. Minho pointed at the council members. You debate humanity's worthiness based on our willingness to die for your children. But what does that say about you? What does it say that you need to question whether saving a child's life is acceptable behavior? Several council members looked uncomfortable. A few seemed angry, but many looked thoughtful. Humans are not perfect, Minho continued. We make mistakes. We act emotionally sometimes. But we also do something that apparently needs to be questioned here. We help those who need help, regardless of species, regardless of cost, regardless of logic. If that makes us unfit for galactic society, then maybe galactic society needs to examine its own values. He returned to his seat. The chamber was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. Thoughtful instead of hostile. Ambassador Thex stood once more. His plates were pale now, not dark with anger, but something else. Something that might have been shame. I must speak truthfully, he said, his voice quiet. The human is correct. I did abandon my kin member. I ran when I should have protected her. I prioritized my own survival over my duty to family. He looked at Velthi, sitting small and silent in the gallery. The human proved himself more parent than I did, more family than her blood relatives. This brings great shame to the Kolari people. Murmurs spread through the chamber again, but softer this time. However, Thex continued, this shame does not mean the human action was correct from a policy perspective. It means our own actions were inadequate. These are separate matters, another council member stood. This one was from a species Taeyang did not recognize. Something with multiple limbs and compound eyes. I must disagree with Ambassador Thex. These matters are not separate. How we behave in crisis defines who we are. The Kolari failed their child. The human did not fail her. This tells us something important about both species. More council members began to speak. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humans should be restricted from sensitive positions. Others argued that humans should be promoted because they demonstrated moral courage. A few argued that the entire galactic society needed to reconsider its values. Finally, as the station's artificial sun was setting outside the windows, Tholmar raised his hand for silence. This council cannot reach consensus today. The matter is too complex and too important. We will adjourn and reconvene in 1 week to vote on formal recommendations regarding humanity's status. He looked at Taeyang. You are free to go, Taeyang Kim, but you must remain on the station until our decision is made. As the chamber emptied, Velthi broke away from Minho and ran to Taeyang. She wrapped her small arms around him. Her crystal plates chimed softly, a sound of relief and happiness. Taeyang picked her up and held her. He was exhausted. The hearing had drained him. But holding the child made it all feel worthwhile. Nari Choi approached them. That was quite a performance in there. I just told the truth. The truth isn't always enough. Nari looked troubled. The council is badly divided. Half of them want to restrict humanity. The other half want to promote us. I don't know which way they'll vote. What happens if they vote to restrict us? Humans lose access to most integrated positions. We become second-class members of galactic society. Everything we've worked for over the past 50 years gone. Taeyang looked down at Velthi. And if they vote to promote us? Then humanity gets a seat on the council itself. We become one of the major voices in galactic affairs. So one child's life might change everything. Yes, Nari said quietly. One child's life. And one human's choice. Taeyang carried Velthi out of the chamber. The galaxy watched and waited for the council's decision. But for Taeyang, the only thing that mattered was that the small child in his arms was alive and safe. Everything else was politics. This was real. The morning of the hearing, Hana Lee released her full investigation. It was not just an article. It was a complete report with video footage, witness testimonies, and detailed analysis. She called it The Pattern of Protection Humanity's 17 Acts. The report went beyond simple facts. Hana had interviewed the people who were saved by humans. She had talked to their families. She had collected their stories. There was Krillix, the Rilxan miner. He spoke about the human Jiwan who carried him through toxic fumes. I was dying, he said through a translator. My breathing organs were failing. Jiwan did not know me. We had worked together only 3 days. but she came back into the fumes. 6 times, once for each of us. Her lungs were destroyed. She will never breathe properly again. When I asked why, she said I couldn't leave you there. As if it was simple. As if there was no other choice. There was Velnara, one of the students saved by Teacher Deho. She was Andorian, tall and blue-skinned. The meteors came so fast. Everyone panicked. Teacher Deho pushed us all under the shelter. There was no room for him. He knew that. He stood over us, using his body as a shield. Pieces of metal went through him. He died protecting us. We asked him later, before he died, why he did not save himself. He said, "You're my students." That's what teachers do. The engineer Bora appeared in a video recording. Both her arms were mechanical now, replaced after the shipyard accident. She spoke calmly. People ask me if I regret it, if I wish I had evacuated with everyone else. I tell them no. I had the skills to seal that breach. I had maybe 30 seconds to do it. If I had left, 200 people would have died. How do I weigh that? My arms against 200 lives? It's not even a question. Story after story. 17 humans who faced impossible choices and chose the same thing every time. They chose to help, even when it cost them everything. The report spread faster than anything Hana had ever published. Within 2 hours, every major news network in the galaxy was covering it. Discussions erupted everywhere. Some species praised the humans. Others felt uncomfortable. A few felt ashamed. Dr. Yoonji Han arrived at the station that afternoon. She was a human anthropologist who specialized in comparative species behavior. The council had called her to provide expert testimony. Minho met her at the docking bay and brought her directly to meet Taeyang. Yoonji was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and calm eyes. She studied Taeyang carefully when they met. "You're shorter than I expected," she said. Taeyang blinked.
Okay?
Height can correlate with risk-taking behavior in some species. But humans are different. She pulled out a datapad and started making notes. "Tell me what you were thinking when you saw the child." "I wasn't really thinking. I just saw her there alone and I moved." "But you were afraid?" "Terrified. Yet you moved toward the danger, not away from it." Yoonji nodded. "Classic human pattern. Do you know why?" Taeyang shook his head. "Evolution," Yoonji said simply. "Humans evolved as social animals. We survived because we worked together. Because we protected each other, especially the young. Not just our own young, but any young. Studies show that humans respond to infant distress signals from almost any species. Big eyes, small bodies, cries of fear. These things trigger our protective instincts." "So it's just biology?" Minho asked. "Biology and culture. Humans have stories going back thousands of years about people who sacrificed themselves for others. We celebrate it. We teach it to our children. We make it part of what we believe a good person should do." Yoonji looked at Taeyang. "You did not calculate the risks because humans don't work that way in crisis situations. We act on deeper programming. We see someone in danger and we help. It's as simple and as complicated as that." The hearing began at noon the next day. The council chamber was massive, designed to hold representatives from 50 different species. Today every seat was filled. Cameras floated throughout the room, broadcasting to billions of viewers across the galaxy. The council president, a being named Tholmar from a species that looked like living stone, called the session to order. His voice was deep and slow. "We are here to examine the incident on orbital station Kepler 7, specifically, the actions of human Taeyang Kim and their implications for human integration into galactic society." Minho stood and presented the defense. He spoke carefully, following all the diplomatic protocols. He explained Taeyang's training, his clean record, his years of peaceful service on the station. He argued that the action was instinctive and should not be used to judge all of humanity. It was a good presentation. Logical, reasonable. Taeyang hated every word of it. Then, Ambassador Thex stood to present the opposition. His crystal plates were polished and formal. His voice was cold. "The Kalari do not dispute that the human's action had a beneficial outcome. However, we must question the methods and motives. During the emergency, trained security personnel were responding. Standard protocols were in place. The human chose to ignore all of this and act independently. This represents dangerous individualism that threatens the cooperative nature of galactic society." Thex brought up charts and data. He showed statistics about survival rates. He explained Kulari decision-making during crises. He made it all sound very logical. The 3 Kulari adults who evacuated during the incident made the correct choice, Thex continued. They ensured the survival of mature, reproductive members of the family unit. The child, while valued, represented only one genetic line. Saving 3 adults preserved 3 lines and the capacity to produce more offspring. This is efficient resource management. A murmur went through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. The human's action, while emotionally compelling, represents irrational behavior. If we allow this kind of unpredictability in integrated galactic positions, we risk chaos. We need species who can be relied upon to act logically under pressure, not emotionally. Then it was Dr. Yunji Han's turn to testify. She stood before the council with quiet confidence. Honorable council members, I have studied human behavior for 40 years. I have also studied the behavior patterns of 17 other spacefaring species. I would like to share what I have learned. She presented data on her screen. Humans evolved on a planet with extreme conditions. We survived not through physical strength or natural weapons, but through cooperation and persistence. We learned to work together, to sacrifice for the group, to protect the vulnerable. The screen showed images of ancient human history. People hunting together, carrying injured tribe members, sharing food during hard times. Every major human culture has stories of heroes who gave their lives for others. We celebrate teachers who protect students, parents who save children, strangers who help strangers. This is not weakness. This is our greatest strength. Yunji's voice grew stronger. Ambassador Thex is correct that humans do not always act logically in crises. We act on deeper values. We believe that some things are worth more than individual survival. We believe that protecting the helpless is more important than preserving ourselves. We believe that courage means acting despite fear, not without it. She paused and looked around the chamber. Taeyang Kim was terrified during the incident. Medical scans show his fear response was extreme. But he acted anyway. He chose to overcome his own biology, his own survival instinct, because he believed saving that child was right. Is that not what civilization should be? The choice to do what is right even when it is hard? The chamber was silent. You ask if humans are too unpredictable for galactic society. Yunji continued. I ask you this. Do you want a society where everyone abandons children to save themselves? Where logic overrides compassion? Where survival is valued more than righteousness? Because that is the choice you are really making. She sat down. The chamber erupted in discussion. Council members argued with each other. Some stood and shouted. Others sat in quiet thought. Taeyang watched it all and felt strange. They were arguing about him, but it was not really about him anymore. It was about what kind of galaxy they all wanted to live in. The announcement came 2 weeks after the incident. The Interspecies Council would hold a formal hearing about Taeyang's actions. The message appeared on every communication screen across the station. Within hours, it spread to other systems. By the next day, the entire galaxy seemed to be watching. Taeyang was released from medical bay but told to stay on the station. Minhoseo arrived 3 days before the hearing. He was a legal advocate from Earth, sent by the human government. He was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a serious face. They're making an example of you, Minho said during their first meeting. They sat in a small conference room while Velti played quietly in the corner. This isn't really about what you did. It's about what humanity represents to them. Which is what? Chaos, unpredictability. A species that doesn't follow the rules they've established over thousands of years. Minho pulled up documents on his datapad. I've been reading the preliminary statements. Half the council wants to use this as proof that humans shouldn't be allowed into more integrated galactic positions. The other half is defending you, but their arguments are weak. What kind of arguments? That you acted on instinct. That it was an isolated incident. That you didn't understand what you were doing. Minho looked up. None of them are saying you did the right thing. They're just saying you couldn't help yourself. Taeyang felt his jaw tighten. So they think I'm either stupid or out of control. Pretty much, yes. Velti made a clicking sound from the corner. She had learned some Korean words over the past weeks. Taeyang not stupid, she said firmly. Despite everything, Taeyang smiled. Thanks, kid. Over the next days, Minho prepared him for the hearing. They reviewed station protocols and emergency procedures. They discussed Taeyang's background and training. They practiced answering questions in the most neutral, diplomatic way possible. But Taeyang hated it. Every practice answer felt wrong in his mouth. Why did you endanger yourself? Minho asked for the 10th time. Because there was a child in danger, Taeyang replied, just as they had practiced. But you could have called security. You could have used the emergency protocols. There was no time. How did you determine there was no time? Taeyang wanted to scream. I just knew. I saw her standing there alone, and I knew if I didn't do something right then, she would die. Minho sighed. That's exactly the kind of answer that will make things worse. They need logic. They need calculations. They need something that makes sense in their framework. Then they're not going to get it, Taeyang said flatly, because I didn't calculate anything. I just acted. Meanwhile, another person was asking different questions. Hana Lee was an investigative journalist based on the station. She had been covering the incident since it happened, but now she was digging deeper. Something about the council's reaction bothered her. She started searching through galactic news archives. She looked for similar incidents, emergencies, disasters, situations where people had to choose between saving themselves or helping others. What she found surprised her. In a mining accident on Tau Ceti III, a human named Jaiwan saved 6 Rilixan workers by carrying them through toxic fumes. She suffered permanent lung damage. On the colony ship Bright Future, a human teacher named Deho shielded his mixed species class during a meteor strike. He died. All his students lived. In a shipyard disaster near Proxima, a human engineer named Bora manually sealed a breach while everyone else evacuated. She saved 200 lives and lost both her arms to explosive decompression. Hana kept searching. She found 17 cases over the past 10 years. 17 times when humans had run toward danger instead of away from it. 17 times when they had saved alien lives at great cost to themselves. It was not an isolated incident. It was a pattern. She published her findings on the station's main network. Within hours, it spread everywhere. The response was immediate and divided. Some species saw it as proof of human heroism. Others saw it as proof of human instability. And some, like Ambassador Thex of the Kolari, saw it as something else entirely. Thex called a press conference 2 days before the hearing. He stood before cameras from a dozen different networks. His crystal plates were dark with anger. These reports of human heroism are nothing more than propaganda, he declared. Humans are calculating creatures. They perform these dramatic rescues knowing they will be praised. They are building a reputation deliberately to gain political advantage in the galactic community. A reporter asked, "Are you suggesting the human who saved Velti did so for political reasons?" "I am suggesting we should question the motives of any species that act so dramatically against their own survival instinct. Natural behavior follows logical patterns. This does not." Thex's voice was hard. The Kolari acted rationally during the incident. "We protected the genetic line by ensuring the survival of multiple family members. The human's action, while accidentally beneficial, represents irrational thinking." Hana Lee watched the press conference with growing anger. She immediately requested an interview with Thex. He refused, so she went to the Kolari embassy and waited outside for 6 hours until he had to leave. "Ambassador Thex, is it rational to abandon the child?" she called out. Thex stopped. His guards tried to move her away, but cameras were already recording. "Do you have children, Ambassador?" Hana pressed. "Would you run away and leave them to die?" "That question is irrelevant to this discussion." "I think it's very relevant. You're accusing humans of propaganda while your own species abandoned a child. How does that look?" Thex's plates darkened further. "We made the logical choice. 1 child or 3 adults. The mathematics is simple." "And what do you think Velti learned from that choice?" Hana asked quietly. "What did she learn about what she's worth to you?" For a moment, Thex seemed unable to answer. Then he turned and walked quickly away. The interview clip went viral. Public opinion started to shift. The hearing was no longer just about Taeyang's actions. It was becoming about something larger, about what species valued, about what civilization meant. Nari Choi, watching all this unfold from her administrator's office, felt a headache building. She had run this station for 12 years without major incidents. Now the entire galactic community was arguing about one human's choice to save 1 child. She called Taeyang to her office the night before the hearing. "This has gotten too big," she told him. "Whatever happens tomorrow, it's going to affect more than just you. Humanity's position in the galaxy might change." Taeyang sat across from her, looking tired. Velti sat beside him as always, holding his hand. "I just wanted to help her. I know. But sometimes doing the right thing has complicated consequences. Nari looked at them both. The council is divided. Some want to restrict human involvement in galactic affairs. Others want to promote us. Tomorrow they're going to ask you to explain yourself. What are you going to say? The truth. I saw a child in danger and I helped. That's all. That might not be enough. Then it's not enough. Taeyang's voice was firm. I'm not going to pretend it was more complicated than that. I'm not going to give them some political answer that makes everyone comfortable. A child needed help, I gave it. If that makes me unfit for galactic society, then maybe galactic society needs to change. Nari smiled despite herself. You sound like a human. Good, Taeyang said. Because that's what I am. The lights were too bright. That was the first thing Taeyang noticed when he woke up. White lights on a white ceiling. Everything was clean and quiet except for the soft beeping of medical equipment. He tried to move his head and immediately felt dizzy. Easy now. Don't rush. A woman's voice spoke in Korean. Taeyang blinked until his vision cleared. Dr. Yuna Park stood beside his bed checking a monitor. She was one of 3 human doctors on the station. You've been asleep for 3 days. 3 days? Taeyang's voice came out rough and dry. His throat hurt. Yuna handed him a cup of water. You were exposed to massive amounts of fear toxins. Your brain basically shut down to protect itself. We were worried you might not wake up properly. She paused. Most species would have permanent damage. But human brains are stubborn things. Taeyang drank the water slowly. Memories came back in pieces. The alarm. The running. The child. The Kulari kid. Is it okay? She, Yuna corrected gently. Her name is Velti. And yes, she's fine. More than fine, actually. She won't leave your room. Taeyang looked around and finally noticed a small figure in the corner. Velti sat in a chair that was too big for her. Her crystal plates caught the light, making small rainbows on the walls. When she saw he was awake, she made a soft chirping sound. She's been here the whole time, Yuna said. We tried to get her family to take her back, but... The doctor's face showed something like disgust. Well, that's become complicated. Over the next hour, Yuna explained what had happened. The escaped organism had been contained and destroyed. No one else died, though 15 people needed treatment for fear toxin exposure. Taeyang had received the worst dose because he had been closest to the creature. But the real problem was what came after. Station security had released the footage of the incident. Everyone saw the crowds running. Everyone saw the small Kulari child standing alone. And everyone saw the 3 adult Kulari who ran past their own family member. It's causing a mess, Yuna said quietly. The Kulari are humiliated. They pride themselves on family loyalty, having their own people abandon a child while a human saved her. It's not going well. Taeyang closed his eyes. He had not thought about any of that. He had just seen a child in danger. Can I talk to her? Yuna called over a medical translator device. It was a small floating sphere that would translate between languages in real time. Velthi moved closer to the bed. Now that Taeyang could see her properly, he noticed how small she really was. Her crystal plates were pale blue with darker patterns. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting light like polished stones. Hello, Velti, he said. The translator hummed and made clicking sounds. The child clicked back. The translator turned her words into Korean. You came back. Everyone ran, but you came back. Of course I did. You needed help. My family ran. My parent unit and birth siblings. They ran. Velti's voice through the translator sounded sad but also confused. This is logical. The danger was great. Survival is primary. Taeyang felt his chest tighten. You're just a kid. Someone should have helped you. You are not Kulari. You are not my family unit. You had no obligation. The child moved even closer. One small crystalline hand touched his arm. Why did you help? Taeyang did not know how to explain it. How could he put it into words? Because you needed help, he said finally. That's all. You needed help and I could give it. Velthi made a sound the translator could not interpret. Then she carefully climbed onto the bed and sat beside him. She did not say anything else. She just sat there, her small body warm against his side. Over the next 2 days, Taeyang recovered physically. But the situation outside Medical Bay grew worse. News of the incident spread across the station and beyond. Communication channels filled with debates and arguments. Some praised Taeyang as a hero. Others called his actions reckless and stupid. The Kulari community on the station went silent. They stayed in their quarters and did not respond to messages. Felthy's family never came to see her, not once. On his third day awake, Taeyang had a visitor. Council Representative Brex entered the medical bay with 2 guards. Brex was a Cillian, a species that looked like tall plants with careful, controlled movements. His translator produced a formal, neutral voice. Taeyang Kim, I am here on behalf of the Interspecies Council. We need to discuss the incident. Taeyang sat up straighter. Velthy, who had been sitting beside him drawing on a datapad, moved closer protectively. What about it? Your actions have created a diplomatic situation. The Kolari government is demanding we investigate your motives. Other species are questioning why a human would behave so irrationally. Brex paused. There will be a formal hearing. You will need to testify. A hearing? I saved a kid's life. What's there to investigate? That is precisely what we must determine. Brex looked at Velthy, then back at Taeyang. You violated standard emergency protocols. You endangered yourself unnecessarily. Some council members believe this demonstrates that humans are too unpredictable for integration into galactic society. Taeyang felt anger rise in his chest. I'm being punished for saving a child? Not punished, examined. Brex turned to leave, then stopped. I should inform you that this case has attracted significant attention. The outcome will likely affect humanity's status in the galactic community. I suggest you prepare carefully. After Brex left, Yuna came to check on Taeyang. She found him staring at the wall, his face dark with frustration. Felty sat beside him, her small hand still holding his. They're really going to make this a problem, Taeyang said. They're scared, Yuna replied. She sat down across from them. Humans confuse them. We don't follow the logical patterns other species do. We do things that don't make sense from a survival perspective. Helping a child makes perfect sense. To us, yes. To them? Yuna shook her head. Most species would have done what Velthy's family did. They would have saved themselves and accepted the loss of one young member. It's harsh, but it's how they survive. What you did was alien to them. Strange. Possibly dangerous. Taeyang looked down at Velthy. The child was watching them both with those large, dark eyes. What will happen to her? I don't know, Yuna admitted. Her family has filed abandonment papers. In Kolari law, they can officially remove her from their family unit due to the shame she caused them. She didn't do anything wrong. No, but she's the evidence of what they did wrong. They can't face that. That night, Taeyang lay awake thinking. Velthy slept in a small bed beside his, her crystal plates dim in the low light. He had just wanted to help. That was all. How had it become so complicated? But as he watched the child sleep peacefully for the first time since the incident, he knew he would do it again. He would run toward that danger 100 times if it meant she was safe. That was what it meant to be human, even when it made no sense to anyone else. The red light started flashing at exactly 14:47 station time. Taeyang Kim was counting cargo containers in Bay 7 when the alarm went off. The sound was loud and sharp, cutting through the normal hum of the station. He looked up from his datapad and saw people starting to run. At first, he did not understand what was happening. Orbital Station Kepler 7 was usually calm. Hundreds of different species lived and worked here together. It was a place for trade and peace. The alarm meant something was very wrong. His communication device buzzed. Nari Choi, the station administrator, spoke quickly. Her voice was tight with fear. Containment breach in biostorage. Level 5, everyone evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Taeyang felt his heart beat faster. Level 5 was the worst kind of emergency. It meant something dangerous had escaped. The biostorage section held organisms from across the galaxy. Some were useful for medicine. Others were deadly. He started moving toward the exit like everyone else. The corridors were filling with beings of all shapes and sizes. He saw Rilxans with their blue skin running on 6 legs. A group of tall Andorians pushed past him. Their faces showed panic. A merchant with 4 arms was abandoning his goods, just running. Then Taeyang heard a new sound under the alarm. It was high and sharp, like glass breaking. He turned and saw something that made him stop. While everyone ran away from Bay 7, a small figure stood alone near the entrance. The creature was no bigger than a human child. Its body was covered in what looked like crystal plates that shimmered under the red emergency lights. Taeyang recognized the species. Kolari, an insectoid race known for their family bonds and strict social rules. But this one was alone. The small Kolari was shaking. The crystal plates on its body were cracking. Small pieces fell to the floor. "Everyone move. Go, go, go!" A security officer ran past, waving a weapon. The officer did not even look at the child. Taeyang watched as more people fled. He saw 3 other Kulari adults in the crowd. They had the same crystal pattern as the child. Family members, probably, but they did not stop. They ran with the others, their faces blank with fear. The child made that breaking sound again. Taeyang knew enough about Kulari biology to understand what it meant. Extreme stress caused their exoskeletons to crack. If too many cracks formed, the child could die from the damage. Something moved in the bay behind the child. Taeyang could not see it clearly, but he saw the air shimmer like heat waves. A smell hit him. It was sweet but wrong, like fruit that had rotted. His body wanted to run. Every muscle told him to flee. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. But the child was right there, alone, abandoned. Taeyang made a choice. He ran toward the child instead of away. His legs felt heavy, like moving through water. The fear was physical, pressing on him from all sides. The smell got stronger. His mind screamed at him to turn around. "Hey, little one," he said, even though he knew the child probably did not understand human language. He reached the Kulari and dropped to his knees. The child's large eyes looked at him. They were dark and full of terror. Behind them, something moved closer. Taeyang did not look back. He grabbed a thermal blanket from an emergency kit on the wall. His hands shook as he wrapped it around the child. Then he wrapped his own body around both of them, making himself a shield. The child stopped shaking for a moment. Taeyang felt the hard crystal plates against his chest. He whispered words he hoped were comforting, even if the child could not understand them. "It's okay. I've got you. You're not alone." The thing in the bay came closer. Taeyang could feel it now, not just smell it. The fear was worse than anything he had ever felt. It was not normal fear. This was something that attacked the brain directly, making every nerve scream danger. His vision started to blur. His thoughts became confused, but he held on to the child. He made himself think of simple things. His mother's face, the ocean on Earth, the way his little sister used to hide behind him during thunderstorms. He was the shield. The child needed him to be strong. Time became strange. Seconds felt like hours. Taeyang's arms went numb. His breathing came in short gasps. The sweet rotten smell was everywhere. He could hear the creature now, something sliding across the floor. It came very close. He felt movement right behind his back. The child pressed closer to him. Taeyang tightened his hold. Then there was a new sound. Loud pops like fireworks. Shouting, the smell began to fade. Strong hands grabbed Taeyang's shoulders, trying to pull him away. "He would not let go of the child, sir. It's safe." "The containment team has it," someone yelled. Taeyang could not make his arms obey. They stayed locked around the small Kulari. His vision went dark at the edges. The last thing he felt was someone carefully removing the child from his arms. He heard a woman's voice say, "The human saved it. He actually ran toward the breach to save it." Then everything went black. When the containment team finished their work, they found Taeyang unconscious on the floor. Medical scanners showed massive exposure to fear toxins. His brain had been flooded with chemicals that should have caused permanent psychological damage. Any other species would have been destroyed mentally by that much exposure. But humans were different. Humans were stubborn in strange ways. The small Kulari child, Velti, refused to leave Taeyang's side. Even as the medical team carried him to the emergency bay, Velti followed. The crystal plates had stopped cracking. The child was alive because a human stranger had chosen to be brave. Station security reviewed the video footage later. They counted 47 different beings who ran past the child. 3 of them were Velti's own family members, but only one person had turned back. Only one had run toward the danger instead of away from it. Only the human. Nari Choi watched the footage 3 times. Each time she felt something twist in her chest. She had been station administrator for 12 years. She had seen many species interact in many ways, but she had never seen anything like this. "Why did he do it?" her assistant asked, staring at the screen. Nari shook her head slowly. "Because he's human," she said quietly. "And sometimes that means doing the impossible thing."